Hey guys, today I want to talk a little bit about the Insurgency SDK. I've been playing this game for a few weeks now. Bought it during the summer sale, and I'm really enjoying it. So I figured I'd make a tutorial on how the mapping side of this game works. It's a little bit different than other games. So yeah, let's just get into it. You'll see here in the DLC section of the game page when you install it that it has an Insurgency SDK as a DLC. Excuse me. This was automatically installed for me. If it's not for you, I don't know why it wouldn't be, but you can go to Properties, the DLC tab, and you should be able to install it by checking this box here. Obviously, it's free. Let's close that down. Now, how you access it? You want to go to your Steam drive. I have this game on my D drive, but for you, it'll probably be Program Files and Steam right here. But mine is my D drive, so we'll just go to Games, Steam Apps, Common, Insurgency 2, Bin, and this is where all the tools are for creating maps, Half-Life face posers in here, Half-Life model viewers in here. But in the Insurgency SDK, they're launched from an SDK launcher. This is not always the case, but it works like this for this game. So I'm just going to launch this up, and it'll pop up here in a second. So this has a menu for face poser, that's Half-Life model viewer, and that's hammer editor. I don't know why I don't have any text. Seems kind of odd, but I know this is the hammer world editor. Obviously, it's a hammer right here. So I'm just going to open this up. And you'll see when you open, or just do file open, or just click in the viewport here, it'll show you the SDK content that gets shipped with the map. So this is some development kit stuff that you can use to study and figure out how the logic works in the game. We're gonna skip that for right now. We're just gonna be doing a simple occupy game mode. Don't want to do that. Control N to open up a new document. I'm going to assume you already know the basics of Hammer and how to set up brushes and just basic entities and stuff, because we're just going to be going through the specifics of how Insurgency works. So I'm just going to start by creating a floor here. Make it 1024 wide, 2048 long, and we'll use a developer texture. I'm going to use reflectivity 50%. And so now I've got a basic block to set up our things on. I'm just going to do Shift E to get into the entity select, entity tool, and then the selection tool here. And I'm going to set this to be an INS spawn point. This is how the spawn points are done in this game. Both security and insurgents are handled in the same spawn or in the same entity, and you just select them based on this parameter here. So I'm just going to set it to security, and you'll need to also set a world model. I've already searched for character earlier, and we'll just find security standard and apply that. So now we've got our spawn point, and I'm just gonna make sure it's snapped to the grid over here. Rotate it 90 degrees, and you'll see Insurgency already sets it up to be 8 units above the ground, which is exactly what you want. Other games don't do that. It's kind of nice. They've got their own fixes and tweaks in this version of Hammer. They're really nice. We'll probably get into some of them later as they come about. So I'm just going to shift drag these to copy them. I'm going to go down to the 64 grid so I can copy them right. Oh, don't want to do it on that viewport. I want to preserve the height, so we'll do it in this one. So now I've got 14 spawn points. And now the game doesn't actually know yet that this is actually a spawn point. If I can spawn in here, but I can't access equipment or weapons or attachments and stuff like that. And so this is handled much the same way as it is in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. I'm just going to drag out a brush over the spawn zone, and I'll texture it in Trigger. And this is another set of tweaks that the Insurgency team added. A bunch of different trigger textures. They work the same as Trigger. You can still use Trigger, but it's just nice to use these for soundscapes or triggerable soundscapes. Spawn zones, capture areas, block zones. We'll talk about those later. and look volumes. I haven't used those. I'm not really actually sure what they're for. I'm sure it has something to do with bots, but I haven't used them and I haven't seen them used. So we're just going to use this spawn zone texture and hit enter. And then I'm going to go in and tie this using Control T, tie it to a INS spawn zone. And this is security. We don't need to name it. It doesn't have an associated control point. Now we'll talk about block zones a little bit. Block zones in Insurgency are brush entities that are used to help alleviate spawn camping. So they're usually set away from the spawn area. They encompass this area, and they'll come out over here, and they just tell the insurgent side or the enemy side that once they enter this volume, it will tell them that they're not allowed to be in the zone, and it will lower their weapons after a short period of time. So we can go ahead and create that actually. Don't really need to for this level. It's very, very small, obviously, but we can just do that real quick. So I'm just gonna drag out a brush. We'll make it 512, make it just this big here. And I'm gonna end up making the sky about this tall. So I'm just gonna make it 192 tall here, and we'll texture it in block zone, and we'll confirm that. And then I'm gonna go Control T, and we're gonna turn it into an INS block zone. We will need to name these now so they can communicate with each other, but I'm gonna name this sec for security. Actually, we'll preface it with block zone sec, and it is security, and that's all we need to do for that for right now. And I'm gonna have this spawn zone reference it, so we'll just go ahead and go block zone, and I'm use the eyedropper tool to select this block zone here. So now it'll know that when I've spawned in this spawn zone, it will use this block zone to stop the enemy players from getting in here and spawn camping us. So now I'm just going to select everything we've already done, and I'm going to copy it down over here, rotate it around, and then I'm going to change the properties of everything so that they reflect being insurgent. So actually I'm gonna select everything first. One of the neat things about Hammer is that you can select, you can do a replace, where is it gonna be? Here it is, replace. You can replace strings with other things based on a selection or in the entire file. So in this selection, I wanna change sec, which is security, to INS insurgent. So we'll replace all in there, and it'll change 16 security parameters with insurgency. But then we still need to go in and change a few other things. So I'm just going to go and select this. You see it's changed it to block zone insurgent. That's fine. We'll change this to block zone insurgent. That's right. It has also renamed our models, I believe. Not smart. Okay, we'll just hide these real quick, and we'll these. Ugh. Need to select these and change them. Yeah, Insurity standard. That's smart. So we'll just make it insurgent standard, and we'll change it to the insurgent side. And that's all we need to do there. So now we've got two working spawn zones. Oh wait, we need to set this to insurgent. I forgot about that. The spawn zone to insurgent. That's fine. Okay. So now we've got two working spawn zones with block zones, and now we're just going to create a simple game mode setup to make this work. So I'm going to create a 512 by 512, not a selection, want a brush. Deselect that. 512 by 512 brush here. Come down to the 64 grid, and we'll make it 192 tall. That's fine. And we'll make it a capture area. So what this is going to be is essentially an area in which the players can stand and capture the control point. And in the Occupy game mode, it's just a single control point. And when you have it, it'll give you reinforcements. It's on a timer, I believe, so the longer you have it, or when you eliminate the other players and you have the control point, you'll win the game. So it's just like King of the Hill. But we need to have something for this capture area to reference. So I'm gonna create an entity here, put it right there, and we'll just right here, and we'll click enter to confirm it, and we'll make it a control point. And we don't want it to be assigned to start, since it's King of the Hill. We want it to be fair play as soon as the game starts, and we will need to name it so that the capture area can reference it. So I'm going to change this name to CP Occupy. CP meaning control point occupy. You don't need to name it this, but just for, you want to name it something that you'll remember, that you'll know what this is when you see it in your list of named entities. So I'm going to call it CP Occupy, and then I'm going to have the capture area, which we need to define as a capture area. So Control T to tie it to an entity, and we'll make it a trigger capture zone. And we'll name this CZ Occupy, CZ meaning capture zone. And then associated control point is our CP Occupy. So it'll know once I stand in this capture area for, I think default is 12 seconds, it will capture this control point for our team. And so that should work now. If I go in game and if I compile this level and go in game and try to use that, it will actually not work. I need to set it up in the scripts for the level that this map does support Occupy. It'll always try to set up skirmish by default, but we'll get to that. So now we've got our logic set up, and we're going to want light too. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a light environment entity. Typically in these games, the brightness and ambient are going to be more real world values. In games like TF2, you'll find some more saturated colors. But in Insurgency and in Counter-Strike, you'll typically see sunlight that looks very similar to how you would see it in real life. So it's typically kind of a yellowish orange color, very, very light. So something right around here. You probably can barely even see that, but it's just a yellowish tint here, and we're going to change it to 600 brightness. That just seems to be a pretty standard value for sunlight in Counter-Strike and in Insurgency. And for the ambient, you're going to want it to be a little purplish, blue, gray type of color, how it is in real life. The ambient is the shadow color, so we'll just change this something like that. Desaturate it a little bit. Hit OK, and then we'll want to set this to 200 brightness or intensity. The intensities of these two, I've typically found them to be that the ambient is typically a third the intensity of the brightness intensity. So we're gonna leave everything the same. This will just give us some sunlight to work with. I'm gonna make sure that this is snapped to the grid. Put it right up there. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna save this level. Or first, actually, it's not sealed off from the void. I'm sure you guys are probably yelling at me right now if you've mapped before. I would have a huge leak, obviously, and this wouldn't really work because it's not sealed off from the void. So I'm going to create a new cordon, and we'll call it just full sealer. And it will just seal off the map here, bring it up to the 128 grid. And we'll just snap it to our bounds for the level. And we'll confirm that and enable it. So this is a little bit easier than just going through and setting up a bunch of skybox walls. It's a little bit dirtier. You wouldn't do this probably when you're making your level for real, but I have mine set up to use the tool skybox texture, which by default in Insurgency is set to Ramadi Sky, which is the sky used in Siege. So that'll be fine for what we're doing. So we can go ahead and save this. I'm going to go to my desktop and make a new, actually I already have it, Insurgency test here. I was already making one earlier. Let's just delete this and we'll call this Occupy Test again. This will be fine. Okay, so now we're going to compile and I'll show you how it looks in game. Okay, so now I'm going to invoke the map with the map command in the console. It's called Occupy Test. Enter that, and you'll see it's got the game mode is skirmish. It's not skirmish, but we haven't set up the script yet to tell the game that it is Occupy. But so nothing's going to work right now. I will be able to spawn in. Let me set the volume a little bit lower here. Yeah. So I have messed something up. You'll see it says warning, you have entered a restricted area. So I'm inside a block zone I should not be in. So we'll go in and look at that in a second. But I'm just going to show you that you can indeed walk around. We spawned in, we're not stuck in the floor or anything. We've got light, we've got a skybox, it's sealed off. Yeah, I can shoot now that I'm out of that block zone. Yeah, I just messed up the block zones. We'll take a look at that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and quit out of this game and go back to Hammer. So the Insurgent side, that's security. So Insurgent, I want to reference block zone Insurgent, and this is block zone Insurgent. And I forgot to change the team number to Insurgents. So that'll fix that. Don't forget to do that. So we can save this. So yeah, that's how you set up the basic entities in Insurgency. In the next tutorial, we'll look at scripting and how to set up the map for your game modes. So we'll see you in the next one.